Thank you, Mayor. Yesterday, May 1st, was the beginning of National Mental Health Awareness Month. And in honour of that, we have a proclamation which the Mayor is about to hand to me. You've been brought in with due ceremony. The tension mounts. All right, here we go. And thank you, Mayor, for giving me the honour of reading this proclamation.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Whereas mental health is essential to overall health and well-being, and mental illnesses are prevalent in our nation, with 1 in 5 individuals over the age of 13 in the United States experiencing mental illness in a given year. That's 20% each year. And whereas half of all mental illnesses have an onset prior to age 13, and 3/4 of all mental illnesses have an onset by the age of 24, and half of us will have a mental health illness at some point in our lives, whether it be depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, substance use disorder, post-traumatic stress, and another condition. And mental illness is a leading cause of disability in the United States. And whereas mental health should be treated as part of a person's overall health, and insurance coverage for mental health care should be comparable to coverage for medical care, to ensure that individuals living with mental health conditions receive needed treatment and feel comfortable seeking help and support to manage these conditions. And whereas accessible and affordable mental health services are essential for helping people with mental illnesses lead full and productive lives and contribute to their communities. And whereas engaging in prevention, early intervention, and expanding treatment are effective ways to reduce the burden of mental illnesses, just as they are also effective in reducing the burden of other chronic conditions. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and person has a responsibility to promote mental health and well-being for all. And people who live with mental illnesses, their families, advocates, and service providers all need support from our community. Now, therefore, Ted Wheeler, the Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, does hereby proclaim May 2018 to be Mental Health Awareness Month in Portland and encourages all residents to observe this month. I'd like to say a particular thank you to the Rosewood Initiative, whose community members brought this to my attention, helped draft the proclamation, and who did a health fair in Rosewood, which is out 162nd and Stark. They had a whole evening full of 30 healthcare providers came to allow drop-in consultations and education, and it was really a fantastic event organized by and for the community.
Thank you, Commissioner, for bringing this. And this is obviously an important issue, and just knowing a lot of people in this room today, I know it's important to all of you as well. And it has become clear to many of us through the efforts we're engaged in, and I realize the proclamation is broad in its approach, but as I think about the services that the city delivers, both our first responders and our police bureau and our fire bureau, and I think about the work that we do around the homeless population on our streets and the many service providers that we interact with. More and more people are coming into contact with people on our streets who are dealing with very serious mental health issues. And it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our services are reflective and responsive to that increased need. And I'm very proud of the fact that you brought this proclamation, and I'm proud of the work that's going on in our city to address this growing need. And I know that all of you have asked that in this budget process, we reflect through our budget our desire to be more engaged on the mental health issue, which we are. So thank you for this. I don't know if anybody else would like to add anything. Very good, thank you. We are now in session. This is the Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018 morning session of the Portland City Council. Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman.
Here.
Udaly.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. Welcome to the Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on. When your time is done, a red light goes on. If you are in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting or interrupting testimony or council deliberations, will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe.
Very good. So first up is communications. Please read the first individual. I noticed they're all on the same subject. Did you want to come up together or just individually?
Yes.
Together? Very good. So Carla, please read the first 5 names. And Mary and Stan, if you could bring chairs, well, one more chair up. It looks like we're one short. Thank you.
Item 400, request of Mary Sipe to address council regarding noise review, board pile driving proposal. 401, request of Stan Penkin to address council regarding noise review, board pile driving proposal. 402, request of Dave Mitchell to address council regarding noise review, board pile driving proposal. And 403, request of Mary Helen Kincaid to address council regarding noise code. And 404, request of Molly Porter to address council regarding pile driving.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
We'll start with Mary Helen.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay. My name is Mary Helen Kincaid, and I'm not a resident of the Pearl District, but I'm here out of a concern for construction noise and the impact that it has on the health of our citizens. In April and May 2014, neighbors endured 7 weeks of impact hammer pile driving at the construction site in Block 17 in the North Pearl District. Residents were suffering serious negative physical and psychological effects of the 100-plus decibel noise. Portland City Noise Code limits construction noise, but pile driving is exempt because of the belief that it is impossible to reduce the noise to meet the 85 decibel limit for construction equipment. Over the years, Pearl District residents had come to believe that the use of the impact hammer pile driver was a necessary evil of high-rise construction and something they just had to endure. Then neighbors did some research and learned that there is newer, quieter technology available, such as the auger drill method. They also researched the physical and psychological effects of exposure to loud noise. What they found was really alarming. On May 14, 2014, the group attended the monthly Noise Review Board meeting. They presented the board with compelling evidence of the serious health hazard posed by the type of noise and shared information about the availability of newer, quieter methods to set the foundation piles, such as the auger drill. While the Noise Review Board at that time agreed that the noise was a nuisance, they were skeptical and not very encouraging or supportive. They told the group that any changes to the noise code would have to be approved by the City Council and advised the group to take their concerns there. On June 25, 2014, members of the group appeared before City Council requesting that Title 18 be amended to restrict the permissible hours of the day and days of the week for pile driving, remove the exemption for pile driving, thereby requiring a noise variance for its use, and require the use of noise mitigation devices. City Council called the presentation impactful and pledged their support. And in fact, Mayor Hales commented, "We'll continue to work with you both in the Noise Office and the Planning Bureau to figure out what the options are here and to move quickly enough that it will make a difference." That was 4 years ago. Over the next 3 years, the Noise Control Office and Noise Review Board held 17 public meetings where the issue of restricting pile drivers was discussed. On July 9th, 2015, the Noise Control Office presented a proposal to City Council to amend Title 18 to reduce the permissible hours of the day and days of the week for pile driving. They were reduced from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. The proposed code change was approved by City Council and became effective July 29, 2015. I want to add right here, because I have 20 seconds, this group of citizens have been impeccable in their research. They've brought factual information. They've presented it in a reasonable and respectable manner, and I think we need to honor their work and what the research that they've done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Helen.
Ooh, and I had 2 seconds left over.
Perfect. That's about as good as it gets right there. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Mitchell, and I'm a resident of the Pearl District. My comments will pick up from where Mary Kincaid just left off. After the July 9, 2015 City Council meeting, Commissioner Fritz convened a noise task force to further study additional pile driving restrictions. However, the noise task force was unable to come to any consensus, so it made no recommendations to further restrict pile driving. Commissioner Fritz then asked her staff to draft a proposal to amend Title 18 to do the following. First, to remove the exemption for pile driving and to require a noise variance permit for this activity. And second, to limit the use of the impact hammer solely to projects where soil conditions prevent the use of quieter methods such as the continuous auger drill. 7 months later, on February 10, 2016, Commissioner Fritz presented a first draft of her proposal to the Noise Review Board. At that meeting, Carrie Stanley, an acoustical engineer and Noise Review Board member, said, quote, "I would rather see companies come up with viable noise mitigation devices. Then it wouldn't matter what equipment they use," unquote. Then Noise Review Board Chair David Sweet stated, quote, "The July 2015 code changes had been effective and any further code changes were not needed as there have been no impact hammer pile driving since the July 2015 code change," unquote. However, the fact that there had been no impact hammer pile driving was not because of the July 2015 code changes. Rather, it was because all proposed projects had been tracked carefully through the Design Review Commission and because a vigorous letter writing campaign had been conducted in the Pearl District asking developers to use the quieter auger drill method. As a result, more than 15 developers had agreed to switch to the auger drill. Then on March 9, 2016, the Noise Review Board heard public testimony on Commissioner Fritz's proposal. Pile driver union members were invited by the Noise Control Office to attend. The union members who testified in the Noise Review Board stated that restricting the use of the impact hammer would cause them to lose work. Ironically, representatives from both Pacific Foundation and DeWitt Construction stated that they hire union pile drivers to work on auger drill projects, just the same as they do on projects employing the impact hammer. The Noise Review Board felt that they were being asked to make geotechnical decisions in determining how building foundations should be constructed, and consequently the board elected not to support Commissioner Fritz's proposal. So without the Noise Review Board's support, Commissioner Fritz understandably decided not to go forward with the proposal to City Council. The good news is that we in the Pearl District had enjoyed more than 2 years of freedom from the intrusive noise of the impact hammer because we had successfully persuaded 15 developers to use the auger drill. However, at that very moment, we became aware that Hoyt Street Properties was preparing to begin construction on its condominium project at Block 20 called Vista Pearl Condos, overlooking Fields Park. Hoyt's geotechnical engineer had previously indicated his preference for using the impact hammer in his testimony at Noise Review Board and City Council meetings. Consequently, on September 2nd, Hoyt Street Properties announced its intention to use the impact hammer pile driver at its condo project at Block 20. I'll now turn things over to Molly.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Molly Porter, and I'm a parent, and I'm at Chapman Elementary School, and I'm on the PTA board. By the time that Hoyt announced its plan in September 2016 to use the pile driver at Block 20, construction had been completed on the new building. More than 1,000 residents had moved into the neighborhood adjacent to the Block 20 project. Portland Public Schools had created a split campus for Chapman Elementary, relocating the kindergartners to the Ramona apartment building near Block 20. Chapman kindergarten classes would be conducting recess daily in the Fields Park directly across the street from Block 20. Flyers were distributed to residents in all of the surrounding buildings and to parents of the Chapman kindergartners, asking them to email Hoyt and the Noise Control Office expressing their concerns and asking them to use the quieter auger drill method. Hoyt Street, the Noise Control Office, and Commissioner Fritz were bombarded by emails and phone calls. Our emails were effective. Within days, Noise Control Officer Paul Van Orden and Noise Review Board member and acoustical engineer Carrie Standley visited the site. They reached out to the Chapman Principal and Chapman PTA, PPS, and Hoyt Street properties, asking them to come together to evaluate the risks and explore methods to mitigate the noise to protect the kindergartners. We immediately began organizing an effort to persuade Hoyt Street to switch to the auger drill. Many neighbors and parents attended a community meeting to discuss strategies to persuade Hoyt Street to use the auger drill. On October 2nd, 2016, more than 100 citizens protested outside Hoyt Street office. Chapman School and PPS representatives, along with Paul Van Orden, met with Hoyt Street properties. Paul and Carrie met with Hoyt Street and DeWitt Construction. DeWitt agreed to use a shroud on the impact hammer to muffle the noise and to build a sound barrier in front of the kindergarten classrooms at the Ramona. On September 14th, 2016, more than 20 concerned citizens attended the Noise Review Board meeting to once again request that they amend Title 18 to remove the exemption for pile driving. Then candidate for City Commissioner Chloe Udaly attended the meeting and gave public testimony in support of our request. Thank you for that. Paul and Carrie visited two sites, Chapman's kindergarten at the Ramona and the construction site at Block 20, and Paul gave an overview to the Noise Review Board. Paul and Carrie shared our concerns, and Carrie made a motion to present a proposal to City Council to amend Title 18 to remove the exemption for pile driving, requiring a noise variance permit and the use of noise mitigation devices. The board voted unanimously to approve the motion to amend Title 18.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Stan Penkin. The pile driving at Block 20 lasted 14 weeks. Without the snow delays, it still would have lasted 12 and a half weeks. While still loud, it was much more bearable than the Block 17 pile driving in 2014, with the noise barely audible at the school. DeWitt had some challenges with the first shroud tearing in high winds. They constructed a new shroud from materials suggested by Carrie Stanley and tested it on the last day of pile driving. Mary Sipe used a loaner noise meter from the Noise Control Office and joined Rory Martindale, Anderson Construction Safety Supervisor, and Paul Van Orden to monitor the effectiveness of the new shroud. They recorded meter readings between 85 and 96 decibels, a significant reduction from the 110 decibels at Block 17, proving that mitigation is effective in significantly reducing noise. It will never be as quiet as the auger drill, but if the impact hammer is utilized, we should require the use of this effective mitigation. At the March 18, 2017 Noise Review Board meeting, the board announced it was ready to put something together to send to the City Council. Paul announced that the proposal had been placed on council agenda for June 21st, 2017. On June 9th, Paul notified us that David Austin, ONI interim director, had placed the proposal on hold due to the Noise Control Office busy season. They both committed to bringing the proposal forward once the busy season was over. Commissioner Udaly's office committed to bringing the proposal forward in the fall or winter, but indicated there was no sense of urgency because there were no planned impact hammer projects in the near future. Without the requirement for a noise variance permit, there is no sure way to know of upcoming impact hammer projects. River Place Parcel Number 3 project has broken ground and is currently using the impact hammer. The location is adjacent to apartments and the Marriott Residence Inn. The entire 5th floor of the Marriott is the location of Ronald McDonald House, where families and patients being treated at Dornbecker Children's Hospital stay. How unfortunate that these families, under the stress of a child with medical issues, are being subjected to the constant 100-plus decibel hammering. They might have been spared if the pile driving proposal had been presented to City Council for consideration. The Noise Control Office busy season has passed, fall and winter have passed, and we still await the proposal on the council agenda. We see no reason for further delay. There is, however, reason to move forward with the proposal before the next impact hammer project gets underway. Hoyt Street Properties announced plans to build another high-rise on Block 23, less than 100 feet from the Ramona Chapman School. We need to ensure that if they use their preferred impact hammer method, they will be required to obtain a noise variance permit and use mitigation devices. Now hand it over to our cleanup hitter, Mary.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Mary Sipe. Let me give you an example of what this amendment would do. If Hoyt Street uses the impact hammer at Block 23, adjacent to the kindergarten, this will give the Noise Review Board the authority to place conditions on the pile driving. The board could require a sound barrier or a noise shroud, or require them to cease pile driving during recess. Without this amendment, the board has no authority to place any conditions on pile driving because it's exempt from the code. The research has been done. The evidence is clear that noise mitigation is effective. We do not need another 17 meetings to obtain stakeholder input. We do not need another task force. Development will not be impeded or delayed. Pile drivers will not lose work. The Noise Review Board will not be determining how buildings are built. Whether the impact hammer pile driver is used because of soil conditions or to reduce costs will not matter. Developers will continue to be free to select the pile driving method they wish to use. When Paul Van Orden presented his noise control program update to the City Council last August, one of the 5 priorities he presented to you was to bring forward the Noise Review Board proposal on pile driving. That was 9 months ago. At a recent City Council meeting, you reappointed Carrie Stanley to another 3-year term on the Noise Review Board. As you noted, Carrie has volunteered many hours to the Noise Review Board over the past 30 years. You all expressed your appreciation to Carrie for his many years of service. Carrie was successful in persuading DeWitt to build the sound barrier and use the shroud, and he assisted in the selection of acoustic materials and design of the barrier and the shroud. These devices were successful in significantly reducing the noise, and Carrie subsequently proposed the amendment to Title 18 to remove the exemption for pile driving and require a noise variance permit, just as Commissioner Fritz had done as part of her February 2016 proposal. It's been 20 months since the Noise Review Board voted unanimously to submit this proposal to City Council. We have had multiple meetings with Paul Van Orden, David Austin, and the new Livability Programs Coordinator, Kenya Williams, to no avail. While they all say they support the proposed amendment, they refuse to commit to reschedule this item on the City Council agenda. All we get is double talk. It's time to honor the work of Carrie Stanley, the Noise Review Board, and the community. Please direct Mr. Van Orden to place this proposal back on the City Council agenda within the next 30 days. In your packet, I hope you will take a look at a couple of things that I put in there. One is just a simple draft of what this proposal, what this amendment could look like. Another is from the Noise Control Program website, an outline of the responsibilities and authorities of the Noise Review Board. And another is a very timely article from the Washington Post that was published in the Oregonian yesterday. And I would ask you to pay particular attention to the very last paragraph that I highlighted in yellow. Thank you.
Very good. Could I ask just a couple of questions? Number one, do you have any sense, and Stanley, I think you mentioned this, the shroud you said is not quite as effective as the auger. Do you have any sense of scale in terms, obviously the high impact is the loudest, and you gave a decimal reading of that previously,
Well,
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll let Mary
Yeah.
respond.
I just wanted to get some sense of
okay.
the.
So on average, the impact hammer is around 100 to 110 decibels, okay? When we took the noise meter readings with the shroud on,
Okay, it was about 85,
it was 85 to 96, depending upon where we were at. And Paul will tell you that a reduction of 10 decibels is like having the noise. So even though it's 85 to 96 decibels, it's still a significant reduction. And in fact, when the shroud tore in a high windstorm, as soon as they started work the next day without the shroud, I got bombarded by emails from neighbors saying, "What's wrong? It's so much louder today." And so it's significant. And the barrier in front of the kindergarten was also significant.
And do you have a sense of the decibels of the auger method?
Yeah, the auger is less than 85, around 85 decibels, less than 85 decibels, and you cannot hear it above the rest of the construction noise.
Okay.
They come in, they drill it, in about 3 weeks, they're done, and you don't even, in fact, one of the projects, I contacted Pacific Foundation, and I said, when are you going to start? And he said, we finished 2 weeks ago. So we didn't even know they'd been there and gone.
And the shroud that you mentioned, could you tell me a little bit, what is that actually made of?
I should have, I had
Is there
some
a picture?
photos.
Oh, could you just send that to me?
I'll send you photos.
That'd be great.
Because,
I'd like to see that.
yeah, it's really interesting, and it's not, it doesn't cover the whole thing. It covers the hammer, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is it a fabric, or is it?
Yes, it's an acoustical type of fabric, and they started with one fabric, and then, because they had the trouble with it tearing and stuff, Carrie worked with them and they redesigned another one with different materials. And when I send you the photos, you'll see the difference.
Okay,
Yeah, and it was definitely sturdy and effective.
Great, I appreciate that. Commissioner Fritz.
Well, first, thank you very much for your presentation. Claire Adamsick on my staff and I have been continuously impressed with the diligence and the help that community members have given to us in educating us and figuring out solutions. So I appreciate that very much. And I'm also mindful that, as you just said, the auger method is under 85 decibels, so you don't need a variance.
No.
So this is one of those opportunities to add a little bit of red tape in the bureaucracy that would then encourage developers to do the right thing while still giving them the option to do their preferred method. I was driving by River Place on my way in a short while ago. I finally understood more clearly what you were talking about. And I was inside the car with the windows shut, and I was like, whoa, that is really loud.
We had a neighbor that lives in Block 17, directly across the street from Block 20, when that pile driving was going on. And the wife was pregnant with her first child, and as soon as the impact hammer started, her blood pressure went up, and they actually ended up inducing her early because of the effects from the noise. Yeah, so the health hazards, we all agree that it's a serious health hazard. And I'll send you some information on that as well. And again, it's pretty simple.
Very good. Commissioner Daly. Oh, I'm sorry. Very good. So I look forward to continuing this conversation. I think you've made a very persuasive case.
Okay, I hope we can count on you to not make us wait another 9 months or 20 months and get this back on the city council agenda. You need the opportunity to make this decision, you know? If it doesn't get presented to you, you don't have the opportunity.
Right, and I do recall we had a hearing previously on this subject, and that it was my hope that we'd wrap this up, but clearly we have not. And
No, we
so-
haven't had anything
Yeah.
on it, yeah.
Okay.
I've talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
and, yeah, so.
Good,
All
okay.
right, thank you.
Consider me very open-minded on this.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good presentation. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Carla, have any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, we have 412 and 415.
Very good. Please call the roll on the remainder.
Fish?
Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. Consent agenda is adopted. Please call item 405, time certain.
Proclaim May 2018 to be Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Commissioner Fish.
Actually, Mayor, you have the proclamation.
Very good. I will, and I understand you're going to provide some opening remarks. Is that correct, Betsy? Very good.
Before you read it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Hello, half a day, and good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Betsy Kitagwa. I'm a Constituent Services Specialist in Commissioner Nick Fish's office. I am also on the Leadership Committee for the HAPA Asian and Pacific Islanders of Portland Affinity Group, HAPI for short. HAPI works with the city to advocate and educate on behalf of HAPI employees and develop ways to attract, support, and retain HAPI employees. The HAPI Affinity Group welcomes and celebrates HAPA Asian Pacific Islanders and allies who are and have been city of employees, regardless of their native language, religion, culture, or tradition. You can find more information and a calendar update of upcoming events if you Google HAPI, HAPI Portland, Oregon, will be the first link on the top. This month's theme is the empowering journey of the Asian and Pacific Islander experiences. And this morning, we will hear stories from 3 members of the Pacific Islander community. But first, I'd like to invite Teva Oriata Polynesian Dance Troupe for a special performance. Don't be alarmed if it gets too loud in here, okay?
I'd like interpretive dance.
Betsy.
Thank you, Carla. So now Angie Jackman will be coming around to give you some lays. Let's do that. Yeah, totally fine. You can drop it, yeah.
Thank you for being here.
If you can please stand up, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. That was
Thank you.
really fantastic. Beautiful. Thank
All
you.
right, so Mayor and Commissioners, now I'd like to introduce you to our invited guest speakers, Angie Jackman, Simeon Jacob, and Eli Saulele.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Yarana, aloha kakayaka, and good morning, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Angie Jackman, and I am the Ra'atira, or owner of Tewa Oriata Polynesian Dance Troupe. I founded Tewa Oriata back in 2014 because Oregon was the only West Coast state without a true pupu'ori, or Tahitian dance studio. When I moved here, I noticed right away the need for more Polynesian diversity in the Rose City, and not only through performances or shows, but through the culture, the actual culture itself. Portland is already a beautiful city with colorful flowers and seasons, which I never experienced before in Hawaii. But culturally, it needed a little bit more vibrancy and a little bit more color to it. What my studio has enabled me to do, it's empowered me to perpetuate this Polynesian culture through dance, music, and traditional costume making, and the true meaning of aloha. My dancers and I have created a community of aloha that we share with open arms to the open arms of Oregon, and I'm so very fortunate and grateful that Oregon has been welcoming. It's so satisfying when we go into the Portland public schools and we perform at the Rose City Fair and we see the eyes of our keiki or our children, their eyes light up because they're watching this culture that they have never seen before, and that is from hundreds of miles away. May 1st, or May Day, is Lay Day in the Aloha State, and it's tradition that we lay each other to show our appreciation, our love, and our aloha that for all that you do for us and that we do for each other. I do not personally have the economic privileges to offer these classes and workshops for free as I wish I could. My husband and I are actually proud public servants. He works at DHS APR for the state, and I work at OHSU. So we already struggle every day to provide a general means to provide this added culture and a normal life for our children, and to contribute this to our community. What would be helpful to cultural organizations like Tewa Oriata is more funding and grants towards these activities and cultural diversity in the community. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to be present today and share our culture, and allowing us to advocate for more recognition of the Pacific, Asian Pacific and Islanders' presence here in Portland, to push for more aloha and mafatu, or heart, cannot hurt anything and can only make this city stronger. So thank you so much for your time. Maruru and mahalo.
Thank you. We're grateful for your presence. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks again, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to have this opportunity to share our story. My name is Simeon Jacob. I was born here in Portland, but both my parents are immigrants. My mom is from Da Nang, Vietnam. She came to America as a refugee and grew up in a foster family in North Carolina, and then moved here in Portland at the age of 16. And then my dad, he came from a small but mighty island from Pingala, which is an atoll, part of the federal states of Micronesia. So if you're not familiar, 1,000 tiny islands in the South Pacific. And he came here as a COPA citizen, which is the Compact of Free Association. And so I always like to talk about where my parents come from, because they are here because the United States were there in their islands, or just in where they're from. And so always want to bring recognition to that. But I always like to lighten the mood, because the reason why I'm here is because of hotcakes. There's a place off of Powell in Milwaukee called the Original Hot Cake House, and that's where my parents met. Not in the typical late night hours, but my dad was a frontline cook, and then my mom's brother was also a cook, so that's where they met. And so whenever we go there, my brother and I always like to have a moment, and thanks for the hotcakes for bringing us life in this moment, but also longevity. So I always like to tell that story, and I always find it that it is important that I tell these stories of where my parents come from, just because like my experience being born here, growing up in Portland, going to school here, there wasn't very like I didn't see myself or hear any of my stories. So the thing is like I didn't think that our people were real, because I never got to read about it. And then when I would tell folks that my dad is from the islands, they're like, "Oh, you're from Hawaii, right? Like you're like The Rock." I was like, "Oh wait, not quite." Like, and so I really am thankful for this opportunity to tell my story, for people to see me, and be able to tell that story. So my name is Simeon Jacob. I am currently a staff member employee at APANO, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon. I feel like I'm a pretty good embodiment of that, because I'm both Asian and Pacific Islander. I grew up here in Oregon, so it just kind of works out. Do that. I'm their new operations and program coordinator, and so one thing that's really exciting about that is that I'm getting to lead the work in partnership with IRCO and the Asian Family Center, and doing the program called APICLE, which is the Asian Pacific Islander Community Leadership Institute, and it's a group that annually we bring a cohort of leaders throughout the state of Oregon to do workshops, as well as like doing workshops, learning from one another, getting mentorship, and really like building leadership within our own communities. I was a participant in this program, and one thing that was really important in that time was throughout my whole academic journey, I never saw myself or anyone who looked like me in those spaces. And so it wasn't until APICLE where I actually met a Palauan woman working at PSU, and like my mind like totally just blew up. I was like, what? There are people who work in these spaces, because where my dad is from, the pinnacle of education is high school. And as soon as you graduate high school, you start your family and you work. And so for me to go to college, this was already like a very countercultural. And so to meet this lady and be my mentor, that was something that was really amazing for me. And so that was one of the things that I learned from her, was to make sure that you continue to tell your story, so that people know that we exist. And so since then, I've been able to participate in other things as well. I've been able to be part of the executive committee with the Multnomah County PI Health Coalition. And so like very much there, we're like leading the work in collecting data for our communities here in Multnomah County, just because in that same sense, it's very important that we collect the information and make sure that we control the narrative, or not even control the narrative, but making sure that our stories are being told, whether that is through collecting data. And so I just want to stop there and just thank you for the time for sharing my story.
Thank you, Simeon.
But thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning. Mayor Ted Wheeler, Commissioner Udaley, Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Salzman, Commissioner Fish. For the record, my name is Elias Salele. My family and friends call me Eli. On behalf of my brothers and sisters from the Pacific Islands, I would like to say thank you and to greet this council as we say in Polynesian. Kia ora, kia orana, yorana, pulavinaka, malolelei, maloni, aloha, talofa. Ia via pea le sua for Yesu Kiriso. As we celebrate this month as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, it is an honor for me personally to be part of this great occasion. As a Pacific Island and a city employee, I am thankful to members of this council and to those who came before you, who laid down the foundation for city policies, encouraging diversity, greater equality, and inclusion, while at the same time discouraging discrimination. When I was invited to be one of the guest speakers for today, I was asked to share something unique and special about specific about my culture. In my Samoan culture, men do the cooking, women do not. Not because women can't cook, but out of respect for our wives, mothers, and sisters. The role of women in the Samoan culture is highly respected. Women can even reach the status of chief in Samoa. There is a joke out there that says, before you consider dating a Samoan woman, you shall first find out how many brothers she has. Because Samoan men are highly protective of their sisters and daughters. It is one of the reasons why I am happily married to a beautiful American woman. Secondly, most of the traditional cooking done by men is very labor intensive. You go fishing, you gather the crops from the plantation, you gather the wood and collect the firewood. You climb the coconut trees and husk the coconuts. You weave the baskets and prepare the earth oven all in one day. And sometimes you have to do it because the chief said so. So it is good to be a chief. I am, however, grateful that whoever invented the microwave, it makes things a lot easier nowadays. On a serious note, I am thankful that I grew up in such a culture where subsistence and communal living and organic food is the norm. A place as a kid growing up, the coral reef and the rainforest are the playground. It makes me, as a Pacific Islander, when I moved to this adopted country of mine many years ago, to be grateful for every little thing I have, appreciate every friendship I make, and be thankful for every blessing that this great country has to offer. We as Pacific Islanders share a lot in common, whether Polynesian, Melanesian, or Micronesian. Our culture, our traditions, and our languages and our faith are a very important part of our identity. Humility and respect is a vital component of our chiefly system that governs our families and communities. Pacific Islanders are known as the happy people, as you can see. And you will find in them some of the most friendly, loyal, and respectful people if you get to know one. As a former high school biology teacher and law enforcement officer, I have a lot of respect for members of this council, for the fact that you have to put up with the amazing amount of love and respect aimed at you nearly every council meeting. And for this reason, I honor your service to this great community. As we consider the future, let us imagine ways we can improve government-community relationships and how to tear down barriers for education and employment opportunities for minority ethnic groups such as Pacific Islanders. Whawhetai, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now, on behalf of all the Asian American and Pacific Islanders, Sizu'us Ma'asi, thank you for the opportunity to recognize a small minority of Americans in Portland. Mayor, will you please read the proclamation?
I'd be delighted. Thank you. Whereas the city of Portland is proud of its diversity and draws strength from the rich cultures and traditions of all community members. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is an opportunity for all and organizations to recognize the contributions of Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians, and Southeast, South, and East Asian Americans to the development and the defense of our country, as well as the cultural, civic, and economic life of Portland for over 150 years. And whereas Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians, and Southeast, South, and East Asian Americans come from a complex and diverse mix of many languages, ethnicities, and faiths, including Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and Sikhism. And whereas Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians, and Southeast, South, and East Asian Americans in Oregon are prevailing over the adversity of exclusion, incarceration, and displacement. And now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim May 2018 to be Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Portland. I call on all Portlanders to recognize and celebrate the vibrant history, cultures, and contributions of our Pacific Islander and Asian American communities. Thank you.
So we'll welcome any comments, and then we'll take a photo at the end.
Colleagues?
So Mayor,
Commissioner Fish.
we've been asked to take a photograph, and I think we should, when we do the photograph, we should acknowledge and ask a number of people that are in the room to join us. I see that Jamie Lim is here, the publisher of the Asian Reporter. Jamie, would you stand and be recognized? Just celebrated, Jamie's foundation just celebrated its 30th anniversary of giving scholarships to young people in our community. So thank you to Jamie and his wife. Sho DeZono is here. Sho is here wearing many hats. You have to wear hats when you have so little hair, but Sho. Right behind you, Helen Ying and Stephen Ying are here. Let's recognize them and thank them for their public service. And I know there are many others, leaders that are with us, and Mayor, perhaps we could invite everyone to join us for the photograph.
Be great. Why don't we just go ahead and meet right up here in front? That'd be fantastic.
Take a picture. So you guys, we can start lining up behind here.
That's fine. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Good. All right. Well done.
Nice job. Nice to see you again. Yeah. Thank you. Betsy, good job. Hey, Betsy.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, Mayor.
Hey, friends.
I'm not shaking. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I was having a blast. It was great. It was great.
Thank you. Nice to see you too, Nisa.
Okay, 406.
It's a real name.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. All right, next up is item 406.
406, appoint Jahan Nani to the Citizen Review Committee Advisory Board to the Independent Police Review, a division of the City Auditor's Office.
And I see Director Severe is here. Come on up, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I am here with Jihan Nami for her to be approved by you folks to serve a 3-year term on the Citizen Review Committee. Ms. Nami is an astoundingly great candidate, multilingualist, and to kind of show the depth of her concern and dedication to the city. While she was in graduate school, her thesis was about possible strategies to prevent gentrification while the city rebuilds. Huh? So it's an amazing, I think, level of dedication that we seek on the Citizen Review Committee. As you folks know, it is an important task that we ask community members like Ms. Nami to serve, and we at IPR work very hard to get qualified candidates, and I've just reviewing Ms. Nami's background, I've just been reminded again the hard work that IPR staff members like Irene Konev engage in to be able to provide quality candidates for your approval, and a quality candidate of the quality of Ms. Nami is just astounding. So I'm very excited about her service on the CRC, and we have a lot of things in front of us in the next several years as we kind of go through the settlement agreement, as well as the project that the Citizen Review Committee has before it. And Ms. Nami is prepared to have some brief remarks.
Very good. Yeah, we'd love to hear that. Thank you for being here.
Mayor Wheeler, members of the council, thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be here. I've lived for many years in several police states, repressive police states, and I understand what it is to live in a place where the police is only accountable to the people in power. I've also lived in places where there is a vacuum of power and there is no police force to serve local residents. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Portland provides for community members to actually hold the police accountable, and I look forward to being part of the solution in improving relations between community and the police force.
Very good. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any thoughts, questions? I'll just say this. Thank you for your willingness to step forward. All of these issues are complicated. They take a lot of time, and there's a lot of research involved and a lot of listening to the community involved, and the pay's not very good. So we're always delighted when we have somebody of your caliber of both lived experience as well as technical experience being willing to serve in that capacity. So personally, I want to thank you, Johnny, for your service. This is a resolution, so I don't know if there is any public testimony on this item.
Yes, we have 2 people signed
Very
up.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Handelman and Ethel Galares.
Come on up. 3 minutes, name for the record. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. I am Dan Handelman with Portland Cop Watch, and this seems to be kind of a regular monthly gathering now where we're putting new people on the Citizen Review Committee. There's been a lot of people who have left in the last year. In fact, we track membership, and I think I told you last time that more people have left in the last year than left since 2003, when 5 people quit all at once and another person left later that year. Hopefully, the changes that were made in the settlement agreement that no longer push the committee to try to hold their hearings within 21 days of a person filing an appeal will make things easier for the committee members. We have nothing particularly we find nothing particularly objectionable about Ms. Nami's nomination to be on the committee. We saw her take part in the retreat this past Sunday that the CRC held. I'd be interested to hear an answer about how she came to meet with Chief Marshman's wife 3 times to talk about Michelle Alexander's book, which is mentioned in her application, as you know, since you are required by the ordinance to read that. We also discovered, though, through the application that she's in her 30s, and so that doesn't change the issue that we've been bringing to you for almost a year now, that there are very, very few people over the age of 40, or only one over the age of 50 on the CRC at this point, and none are retirees. They're all working, and that's part of the reason they're not able to get as much done as they were in the early days when perhaps there were too many retirees on the board. So the pendulum swung too far the other way. Also, one of the things that was discussed at the CRC's retreat is that in order for the CRC to get all these things done, they need to have their own staff person. IPR provides a staff person who does support work for the CRC, but it's not somebody who is at all their meetings or taking notes at their subcommittee meetings or really is a champion for them. Furthermore, IPR has cut CRC out of its annual reports, which we haven't seen this year's annual report yet, but I'm sure they probably don't have the same kind of section they used to. They are no longer given their own column in the quarterly reports, and it just seems like somebody has to champion this group, and having their own staff person would help that a lot. And last time, too, when I brought up the issue about the diversity, which is, in fact, in city code, that, you know, the reflection of the city, the makeup of the committee should be a reflection of the city. There was a comment made that you don't want to micromanage the auditor's choices, and it does give this, you know, the council does have the authority to reject nominees. I'm not saying you should reject Ms. Nami's nomination, but, you know, if the CRC and IPR fail to start recruiting people of more age diversity, you're not going to be able to reflect the makeup of our city.
Thank you. And Director Sevier is here, and he's heard your comments as well. Thank you. Next individual, please, Carla.
She was on the wrong list.
Oh, okay. Is that it?
That's all who signed up.
Very good. Colleagues, any further comments, or may I call the roll? Please call the roll.
Fish?
I want to thank Ms. Nami, for stepping up and agreeing to serve. And this is an incredibly important position, and we will try to support you in every way necessary. Thank you. Aye.
Saltzman?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Nami, for your willingness to serve. And I also want to thank Irene Konov for doing an outstanding job in delivering you here today. I was reading through the impact statement that Irene prepared, and it's an exhausting schedule she leads in the search for qualified members for the CRC. So good job, and thank you. Aye.
You, Daly?
Thank you for your service. Aye.
Fritz?
Thank you very much for being willing to serve. As you know, it's a lot of work. I'm particularly excited about your international experience. I bet University of Staffordshire sounds absolutely an idyllic place to do sustainability and environmental work. I hope it was a good experience for you. I do share the concerns that Dan Handelman raised regarding the reporting and the staffing of this committee. That has been an ongoing challenge. And I hope that I will continue to have a liaison from the committee letting me know what's going on there. So thank you very much for your work. Aye.
Wheeler?
Well, I'm obviously thrilled that we have Ms. Nami willing to step forward and serve. You know, Dan doesn't agree with me a lot on a lot of issues. On this one, Mr. Handelman, we're in agreement that all of our cities, boards, and commissions should do more to reflect the diversity of age. We are not talking about an age-friendly community just so we can talk about an age-friendly community. In order for this to be an age-friendly community, that means people of all ages need to be at the table where decisions are made. And so I would strongly encourage that we do everything we can to diversify this and all committees and boards and commissions around age. Your credentials here are really solid. They're exceptional. I think you're going to be a very excellent contributor to this group, and I want to thank you for your service. I vote aye. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next item, 407, time certain.
Accept the quarterly Technology Oversight Committee report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
So the Technology Oversight Committee, as you know, colleagues, provides citizens oversight on significant city technology projects, especially those with a high risk or potentially high cost. This gives us early and continued technology oversight by an independent 5-member committee for the purpose of increased transparency and accountability. TOC sends quarterly reports to the Chief Administrative Officer, who then forwards the reports to the Council. The quarterly report includes information from each project's independent quality assurance consultant and TOC's assessment of project status. And we have a number of people today, who are interested in giving us the details of this report. I think, Jen, are you up first? We're starting with Jen Claudius. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Mayor and
I'm sorry I have
Commissioners.
to take this.
I'm Jen Claudius, the Strategic Communications Manager for your Office of Management and Finance and staff support for the Technology Oversight Committee. With me today are Jeff Baer, the Director of the Bureau of Technology Services, and Diana Garcia, who is Commissioner Fritz's appointee to this committee. To give honor to the other members are Ken Neubauer, who represents Commissioner Fish, Dr. Wilf Pinfold, who is appointed by Mayor Wheeler, Mike Lynch for Commissioner Saltzman, and we are currently working with Commissioner Udaley's staff to find a replacement for Josh Mitchell. The report that we are presenting today actually is only one project, the Portland Online Permitting System. That said, TOC has been working with the City Budget Office on their replacement software for the budget process, and they're also beginning to take oversight of the Portland, Oregon website refresh project. So the future reports will be much larger. We're going to project this dashboard, and Jeff and Diana are going to catch you up.
All right. Me first. Okay, so the POPS online permitting system, for those that do not know, is the project that's going to put in the paperless permitting system for the city of Portland. So it'll be an online process, which allows all of the people looking for permits to go to one place and be able to do that online. Project deliverables include digitization and online access of historical permits, property information, implementation of an updated permitting and case review, information management system, online case and permit application and review services, mobile online access for field staff, and implementation of automated queuing system. So it's fairly robust, which is good. This quarter, they have implemented, or they've done some technical train the trainers for the people that will be working on putting the system in. Team is restarting the work on the key project management deliverables, so the charter, risk planning, communication, and overall plan for the program. And then, do you want us to talk next about what's coming up?
Yes. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, members of City Council. I'm Jeff Baer with the Bureau of Technology Services. Just to add a few more things that we've made progress on since the report was submitted. And we've got a really, in my opinion, a really strong team in place. And I want to thank Director Isa from Bureau of Development Services for her support in this effort, and along with Dan Cote from her staff. The work that we're doing together is really difficult, challenging, but we are on the right track. And if you haven't had a chance to visit the Bureau of Development Services website on the POPS program, I'd encourage you to do that and take a look at it. We just published a fact sheet that has the latest information about what we are doing. We recently released a new, what's called BDS Maps program that's going to cut the creation of addresses down by at least half the time. So we're rolling out different functionality and features of this program over a period of time. So it's a very progressive, iterative process, but we are making significant progress. And I think what you had heard from myself and from Director Isa a couple months ago is we're on track to come back in later this summer with a bigger package to present about the rollout of the different efforts that we've got underway for a longer term program once we get some base systems in place. So we're on track for that.
And just kind of to close it out, we in the TOC have talked quite a bit about POPs, knowing that it is a very large program and very important for the city that this project and program goes well. We are really optimistic with what we're seeing. They are taking our feedback, and we are feeling like it's a partnership, which is great to hear that we're able to provide input that's value add for them. We are slightly cautious. We're seeing a lot of progress, and the plan still isn't coming together. So that's something we'd really like to see come together sooner rather than later. And we've provided that feedback as well. The one ask we would have to the council is continued leadership with the bureaus. The POPs program is probably going to need bureaus to come together and align and actually get some consistency between them on how they do processing and how they just the overall process. That's hard for anyone. And so continued leadership to help them understand the importance for the city is something we would like to ask for you guys to do with the bureaus that report to you. We feel like that partnership will just make Portland even better and stronger, and this will be a huge win for them if we can bring not only the tool, but the city together as, one city and come as one Portland.
Questions?
Well, I'm looking at under the column that says current revision, it says September 30th, 2017. Is that supposed to be 2018?
I believe that's a carryover from the discovery process.
Yeah, I think that should be 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep. It should be March, right? March.
So September
2018.
30th, 2018 is when we're looking
Yes.
for it to be online.
Commissioner Fritz?
But then we don't have a schedule and a scope, so how do we know that it's going to be done by January, the end of September this year? That's not long to go.
Correct. Yep. So that's one of the things we are asking for as well, is to get that schedule and scope really locked down. I think part of that goes to the bureaus coming together and aligning on what they can do. The team has been doing a great job to make progress against that. We just don't have the formal documents yet, but we know there is progress against it. We just need the actual physical thing.
And part of the reason, too, is that we're on a pretty short timeline, and we have a preliminary or a draft schedule and scope in place, and we're working with that. We just want to be sure that we've got that nailed down before we present it as a formal document.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Very good. Any further questions on that? Very good. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fish, a second from Commissioner Fritz. Please call the roll.
Fish,
That's the first time I remember seeing a sea of yellow on a report of this particular project. So congratulations to all involved. Aye.
Saltzman,
Thank you for your good work and good results. Aye.
Udaly,
Well, thank you to the TOC and to BDS staff who continue to work diligently on this project. I'm hopeful that we're going to see that yellow turn to green, and we'll make significant progress in the coming months on POPs. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, thanks, Jen Clodius, for your continued stewardship of this work. And Diana Garcia, I'm really proud that you're my representative, and it's humbling and honoring that you give such diligent volunteer work and give your expertise on something which has been a gnarly issue, which has been stymieing the bureaucracy for many years. And so I'm, like you, a bit nervous about that September 30th date, and hope that while all the bureaus are in your portfolio, Mayor, there'll be maybe a coming together of the minds of how we can get there. Aye.
Wheeler.
I appreciate this work. I think it's excellent. I appreciate the updates, and perhaps more than anything else, I appreciate your guarded optimism, or maybe I'd restate it as engaged skepticism around POPs, because frankly, that's where I am. And so it makes me feel better knowing that you are taking this very seriously, and I know you are. So thank you for the accountability check and balance here. I think it's really important, the work you're doing. I vote aye. The report's accepted. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Item 418, please.
approve an intergovernmental agreement with Portland State University for the Hatfield Resident Fellows Program for training and leadership development for candidates interested in public sector service for 4 years for up to 6 fellows per year at an amount per fellow of $40,000 and total contract amount not to exceed $960,000.
Colleagues, this is a renewal and update of an existing master IGA between the City of Portland and Portland State University, setting out uniform terms and conditions for city bureaus that wish to sponsor Hatfield Resident Fellows through PSU and its Center for Public Service, which runs this program. Potential fellows are recruited each year by PSU from its own graduate programs and similar programs across the United States. In a typical year, applicants come from more than 30 graduate programs, both within Oregon and from outside. Fellows are brought on as PSU employees and are paid by PSU, which pays payroll taxes and some PERS benefits and assumes all HR responsibilities for them if and only when a sponsoring entity identifies a suitable candidate. For each fellow and his/her assignment, a statement of work, SOW, is then negotiated between Portland State and the City Bureau, specifying the deliverables for which PSU and its paid fellow are responsible. If and only when city bureaus identify a need in the resources for bringing on a fellow, this IGA will facilitate the contracting process and let them draw on available funds. I don't think I'll go into the history unless anybody specifically requests that. I think we'll just start with Director Phil Kiesling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're really proud of this program, which has been running now with Hatfield Resident Fellows version since 2011. During that period of time, we have recruited from dozens of institutions across the country as well as our own. It's a competitive and a matching program as described by the mayor. We have, over the period of time with the City of Portland, placed, I think, 23 fellows. And I think it's a testament to the contributions that they have made, that the city bureaus where they have been placed over the years, I think in 22 cases, they have extended to some extent their service after the fellowship was completed. And I think a dozen of them or so are now currently still working at the City of Portland. This is a program that attracts people back who are from here but might have gone to school somewhere else, in addition to people from Oregon that are completing their school here. It also, quite honestly, attracts people who do not have many ties to Portland but have heard very good things about it and really are eager to work in a city where the values and the policy commitments match their own. This is where they want to start their public service careers. We, of course, have to compete, though, for them. Even when they get an offer for a fellowship, they are often weighing other options, both in their home communities or maybe fellowships at other entities that also participate in the program. But it is something that we really believe helps with meeting the city's goals of talent, city's goals for diversity, and this IGA is simply a way to facilitate the onboarding process if and only if city bureaus decide they have a fellow that they want to bring on and the fellow agrees to it.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Larry Nelson with the Bureau of Human Resources. I'd just like to point out that since this program has started since fiscal year 11-12, that it has been immensely popular throughout the city. We've had to amend this contract 3 different times just because we couldn't keep up with the demand for fellows. And I'd like to point out that the value that we get, even though we're only paying $40,000 per fellow, they're often providing us over $100,000 in benefit in terms of salary and production once they're here. So we're greatly appreciative of that. The total contract is $960,000 over 4 years. Allows for 24 fellows over a 4-year period. So, and I would like to explain how that works across the city. It's a citywide contract, so if bureaus have the appropriation in their budget, they're able to
total on the contract and use $40,000 of that contract. So it doesn't go to one particular bureau. It's just whoever requests a fellow through PSU. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Fritz?
Who covers the fellows' health insurance?
Health insurance, unfortunately, is not part of the package. It usually, they cover it on their own, either out of the stipend that they get. Some people have still coverage through Obamacare provisions, Affordable Care Act, because of their age. But we do not provide health insurance benefits.
That's worrying because they only make about $23, $24 an hour. So to have to then buy the health insurance is concerning. Do other PSU students have the ability to buy into PSU's coverage?
If you are a PSU student, you are, but these are not PSU students because they have graduated from their program, Commissioner Fritz.
And the city doesn't cover them either, right?
Yes, that is correct. And it is something that in an ideal world we would very much like to be able to do. But the term is short, and it's an 8-month period of time. And fellows know when they take this on that is not part of the compensation package. But and they weigh that, and they sometimes turn us down for exactly that reason and choose another opportunity.
Yeah, I think as we're all going to, at the local level, have to be more responsible about providing health care if the federal government isn't going to be as assertive on it, to put it kindly.
No, I think
when the contract comes back next time, if you could think about that, please. And then also, do we give any sick time or obviously they'd get paid sick time?
Not from the city, no.
Yeah.
They would have to get paid sick time because of the Oregon state law. If they're working for us, they earn sick time. So that's something that we should make sure that we're clear about.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, they are Portland State employees, and
They get the sick time as appropriate by law.
right, they get the sick time under PSU laws as the law provides. That's correct.
Right, not through the city, though.
Yeah, not through the city, but through Portland State, because we are the employer of record.
through this contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what are the demographics of the 23 fellows we've hired so far?
So, so far from the city of Portland. So the demographics, it's part of the package that we've provided. So of the 24 Hatfield Fellows placed at the city of Portland from 2012 to 2018, 66.7%, 2/3, 16 have been white. 3 identified Hispanic or Latino, 2 Black or African American, 2 Asian, and 1 chose not to respond. So roughly approximately 1/3 not white.
Could we do some targeted recruitment at universities that tend to have more students of color? I mean,
Absolutely. Commissioner Fish, that is one of the things that we strive and work very hard to do, and it's part of the program cost is that recruitment. For example, we've reached out to historically black colleges, and we had somebody placed from Morgan State University, African American, last with a local nonprofit here in town that deals with housing. We have 1 minority candidate out of the 3 that have currently been placed for this next round at the City of Portland. But we strive to try to get these numbers up, and I think that's something we really look forward to working with the city on, to doing more outreach. It's a very competitive market in ways that it wasn't 2 or 3 years ago. We had a lot more people applied back in the depths of the recession when opportunities were less, so we're competing more as the economy has done better, and quite honestly, as more and more people are retiring from the public sector and opening up positions. So we think this is a very, very important goal of this program, is to help not just the city, but all of our sponsors with their diversity goals.
Thank you.
Phil, I have a question. You were here last week, and just remind me, when you were with the Hanoi delegation, you were wearing the hat as First Stop?
Portland, right.
First Stop Portland. So I want to just acknowledge to my colleagues that Phil Kiesling was here last week with a delegation from Hanoi, and we don't have currently any kind of sister city relationship with Hanoi. That may change. But they were here interested in learning more about health issues, and in particular, exploring a partnership with the Knight Cancer Institute. and having a way to tap into their network. And I could not be more excited about those kinds of partnerships, and the idea that delegations coming from other countries wanting to know more about NIGHT and how they can collaborate with the city and with OHSU is just fantastic. So thank you for bringing them by.
Thank you. Very good. Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have 3 people signed up.
Very good.
Come on
Thanks,
up.
Joan.
We have Dee White, Shedrick J. Wilkins, and Shannon Carney.
Good morning.
Hello, my name is Dee White. Thank you, Dr. Kiesling, for being here today and for your presentation on the Hatfield Fellows program. I'd also like to thank our auditor, Mary Hull Caballero, and her staff for their consideration in this agreement. This new agreement between the city and Portland State for the Hatfield Fellows program appears to be very worthwhile. But more importantly, it is an equitable and honest expenditure of Portland taxpayer and ratepayer money. 6 fellows per year, as opposed to 20 fellows per year from the previous agreement, is much more acceptable given that all city bureaus are, in Mayor Wheeler's words, literally hanging on by their fingernails. 6 fellows as opposed to 20 fellows means $560,000 per year of taxpayer and ratepayer money can be spent elsewhere, like saving a few community centers. The previous fellows program from 2014, which had been amended twice, was in January of this year presented to council with another amendment, which consisted of a request for an additional $400,000 1 month before the agreement was due to expire. No reason was given in the impact statement or the ordinance for why or for what the $400,000 was needed. After questions arose from the public, the ordinance was pulled back to the mayor's office, and the new agreement y'all are voting on today as an emergency is what resulted. At the PSU Hatfield Fellows website, I learned the Hatfield Fellows program teaches recent graduates who are seeking to transition into the public sector about the ethics and values that continue to shape the Northwest's policy-making process. I respectfully request that the Hatfield Fellows program places more emphasis on the ethics portion and less emphasis on the values portion of your teaching policy. Ethics and values are most always vastly different, especially at the City of Portland. Ethics determines what is right or wrong. Values define our priorities, and the City of Portland's priorities are all too often ethically conflicted. Thank you, Dr. Kiesling, in advance for your consideration.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi there. My name is Shannon Carney, and I work for the City Budget Office. So normally when I'm here, I'm talking about kind of the data and facts and figures around our programs and city results. But fortunately, Phil and Larry did a lot of that already and covered a lot of ground, which is great because I wanted to come today to really just express my gratitude for the Hatfield Fellowship opportunity that I was able to take advantage of to come to the City of Portland and to represent the other Hatfield Fellows that have also become City of Portland employees, several of whom are here today. And I want to tell you a little bit of my story. So I remember the exact moment when I made the decision to go back to graduate school. I was on Cycle, Oregon. It was September of 2011, and I was standing in this field in Riddle, Oregon. And one of the ride's founders, this guy Jonathan Nicholas, pretty legendary figure himself, was telling a story about the settlers that came across the Oregon Trail and how, we talk about their covered wagons, but really they walked. They walked here 2,000 miles to get to Oregon because they'd heard it was such a promised land. And, that it made me reflect on my own life. I'm a person that was born and raised here in Oregon and always loved the state. And, but I had moved away, and it right then and there, I decided that I wanted to go and fulfill my dream of working in government in Oregon as a way to give back to this place that has given so much to me. So I went to school at the University of Washington, Daniel J. Evans School, and when it came time to graduate, I didn't have a network in Oregon because I'd lived elsewhere for so long. Fortunately, I was able to connect with the Hatfield Fellowship and received a placement at the City Budget Office. And that was fantastic. Center for Public Service offers a pretty unique opportunity there. Even among elite schools of public policy and public administration, this is a very unique program to have postgraduate placement. That's been my story, and now I have a job that I love, leading citywide performance management. So I also want to say that, the reason that I support this program so much is because I have an opportunity to work with the other former fellows. They're true change makers. They're totally dedicated and so skilled, and bring a really strong diversity of perspectives and experience. They come from all over the country in many schools. And I also wanted to say, I wish they could all speak today, because they're all doing amazing work, but about a lot of that. So I also want to say that, PSU and Bureau of Human Resources, they didn't ask us to come here today and support. In fact, it was the other way around. We lobbied them to be able to take some of their time, because it's a unique opportunity to express our gratitude, for the work of the program, to say thank you to Phil, Kathy, and to George Beard, who enthusiastically recruited and mentored many of us along the way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further questions, colleagues? Please call the roll.
Fish?
Well, Mayor, thank you for bringing this revised ordinance back to council, which I enthusiastically support. First to Phil Kiesling, our former Secretary of State, and the sort of author or architect of vote by mail. I now live in a big residential apartment building, rental apartment building, and the other night, someone came and knocked on my door and said, "Would you please come over to our place? We want you to explain some things that are on the ballot to us." So 2 glasses of wine later, and the voters pamphlet, and the ballot, and some newspapers articles they were looking at. I think I left them with some information to chew on, but that would not, of course, would be possible without vote by mail. So very pleased that we've made that stride forward. This is a partnership with a wonderful university and a program very close to my heart at the Hatfield School of Government. And when we have gatherings like this, I think about Dr. Nohad Toulan and his great legacy and bringing Senator Hatfield into the fold and celebrating his work. There are many reasons why this is beneficial to the city, to the fellows, to the taxpayers, but I'll just, in keeping with this idea of values and ethics, I'll remind all of us that a signature event in Mark Hatfield's life was when he voted against the balanced budget amendment, and did so at great political peril. In fact, he offered to resign from the Senate in order to allow Bob Dole to have his signature achievement that he hoped to secure ahead of running for the presidency. It could have cost him his committee chairmanship. It certainly cost him lots of support within his own caucus. But he chose to take a principled position, even though it was out of step with his party. I would say we need more of that kind of leadership in our country. And so when I think Hatfield Fellows, I think about a program that is hopefully training people to have fruitful careers in public service, where they have the kind of courage to follow, to do the right thing when those kinds of situations arise. So thank you very much. I'm pleased to vote aye.
Saltzman?
Well, this is a great program. I appreciate the leadership at Portland State, Phil Kiesling and others. And also, the city is the real beneficiary here. We reap tremendous dividends from the talented Hatfield Fellows we've had. Shannon Carney is one of those people, and thank you for sharing your story about how you got through the program and how you're doing a great job leading performance management at the city. And she's just one of many. All the Hatfield Fellows I've met through the years have always impressed me, and I think many of them have gone on to full-time city employment, which is a win-win for everybody. Aye.
Udaley?
Aye.
Fritz?
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Dwight, for your tracking this. I'm happy to hear that you support the revised proposal, and I appreciate the changes that were made in it, Mayor. Thank you for responding to the previous concerns. Thanks, Shannon Carney and Lauren King and others who are here exemplifying why this program can be so great for everybody. I'm very happy you're now getting full pay and benefits. And I do think that as we continue to look at how do we attract people, we know that people want to work at the City of Portland for things like vacation time, sick time, paid parental leave, and some of the things that, certainly with sick time and paid parental leave, were not universal, and still in some cases are not universal. So as we look to attract people from other states, let's exemplify the best, so that we get the best coming here, as we have in the past as well. Dr. Kiesling, I do want to mention my daughter has moved to Irvine, California. She told me last week she's signed up for permanent vote by mail. Of course, Mum. So we'll spread it out. We'll give back the love as well. We'll spread it out. Thank you so much. Aye.
Wheeler.
Good work, everyone. Phil, thank you for your leadership on this, as always. And I also thank Shannon, not only for her story, but for her significant contributions to the city. And I know I lean on Shannon a lot, so she's one of many. In my office, Elizabeth Perez was our most recent Hatfield Fellow, and she was and continues now as a full-time employee to be a significant contributor to my team. So I know this program does a very, very good job of connecting with predominantly, although not exclusively, young people who show significant chops and leadership potential. And for that reason, I continue to strongly support this program. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you for being here today. Next item, 419, please.
Authorize a lease with Bristol Equities, Inc. for warehouse space at 935 Northeast 24th Avenue through April 30, 2020, at an average annual cost of $36,600 for the storage and retrieval of personal property collected during campsite cleanups on City of Portland property.
Colleagues, historically, the most challenging aspect of the city's following the spirit of the Anderson Agreement has been the process for returning personal property. The primary reason for this has been the location of the property storage facility, the southernmost edge of Portland across from the Barber Boulevard Transit Center. Though it was located directly across the street from a mass transit hub intentionally, its location created a considerable deterrent for those waiting to claim collected property. After an exhaustive search of suitable city-owned property in a more centralized location, it was determined that this warehouse, located just to the north of Northeast Sandy on Northeast 24th, will help the city meet both the spirit and the letter of the Anderson Agreement. We're excited for this development and hope it makes for an easier process for folks wanting to reclaim their personal belongings. I'd like to invite Lucas Hillier and Pauline Goebel, they're already up here, to answer any questions that we may have about this new location or the lease.
Thank you. I just have a couple slides to show that.
Thanks. And Lucas, could you just introduce yourself for the record? Thanks.
Lucas Hillier, OMF. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, and members of the council. So right now, our property storage location is on the very southern edge of the city of Portland, roughly 400 yards from the city of Tigard. Using City Hall as a reference point, you can see on here it's roughly 4 or 5 miles away from the downtown core. The new location is much shorter distance from downtown. But if you look at a map of where folks are actually camping, you can see that this is right in the heart of the city where folks are living outside. So the reason for this move is twofold. One is that we are running out of space in the 1,000 square foot building that we're currently in. The new space is 4,300 square feet and will allow us to more effectively get people's property back to them.
Commissioner Fritz?
That street on the east side, is that 122nd? The one with the concentration of people living outside?
That is the I-205 multi-use path that runs along I-205.
Thank you.
So what?
I was just going to say that's a very interesting graphic,
Yeah.
showing where communities are really being impacted and where people need services.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious as what percentage of items are actually reclaimed?
Well, right now, I would say that that's roughly 10% or below.
Yeah.
And I think a big reason for that is the location of the storage. And it is our hope that if we move it into a more centralized location, people will be able to get it, and those numbers will go up.
And what is our retention time for items that are?
It's 30 days.
30 days, okay.
Yeah.
How do we let people know where to go?
So on the notice that we place, the 24-hour written notification, there is a phone number in black or bold red letters for folks to call. It's to Pacific Patrol Services, is our primary vendor who handles the property storage. So folks call them and set up an appointment.
And will that remain the same with the move?
It will.
So we're assuming that all homeless people have easy access to a telephone?
So we have worked with outreach providers to assist and make sure that all the outreach providers working with the population are aware of the process. We have also worked to produce a flyer that has like a little tab to pull off the phone number that folks call, trying to proliferate that information.
Will this be the only function of the space, is storage?
Yes.
And so it won't be staffed regular business hours, hence the need for an appointment?
Correct. There will be vendors there from Pacific Patrol Services throughout the day, off and on, but it is not cost effective for us to keep somebody there 24 or 40 hours a week.
I understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably people can call 823-4000 and get connected to that.
Yes, and the other phone number that we have on the posting notice is 211. And so we've had a conversation with 211 to help people redirect.
And I seem to remember that the current location is a Water Bureau property, or?
Correct.
Yeah, and I live a mile from there. It's actually 7 miles from downtown.
Oh, is it?
It's a significant.
It's out there.
Some of us don't think so.
Yeah.
It depends on your mode of transportation and your ability to get bus tickets, which
Right.
obviously people don't. So I really support your continuing to look, because I know it was really hard to find somewhere in the first place. So the fact that you didn't just call it good and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it, I appreciate your work, both
I
of
think
you.
everything came together for this space, so it was very hard to find space, and then having this come available, just everything at the right time, so,
We're pretty excited about it.
yeah, it's a great space.
Could you identify your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Pauline Goebel, Property Manager in the Office of Management and Finance, Facility Services Division.
I just wanted you to get the credit, or
Well,
part of the credit.
I want to thank
at
my
least.
team, really, they did it, was a collaborative effort, so.
As I say, it's impressive that you didn't just call it good and say, well, we don't, we're fulfilling the letter of the law, but
Right.
you continue to care about people actually being able to get their stuff back.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there public testimony on this item, Carla?
No one signed up.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Fish?
Aye.
Saltzman?
Well, I want to thank you both for the great work you do on issues of dealing with camps and all the issues, the one point of contact. It's a lot of work. You get a lot of calls, a lot of complaints, and so thank you for doing that. Aye.
Udaley?
Aye.
Fritz?
Thank you, Lucas Hillier. You've really taken this to the next level with care and compassion, and with giving a lot of data so people can contact the one point of contact and get on your email list so that you can say what's been done, what's not, what's coming up, and there's a lot more certainty in the way things are happening. And this is another of the important pieces that once people have been, and it's mostly abandoned sites, it's that the cleanup crews are taking care of here, as well as helping people find services. And so I appreciate the dual approach. Aye.
Wheeler?
So I don't ever get to embarrass Lucas in public, and I thought I'd take that opportunity today. Lucas is one of the hardest working employees in the city of Portland, and he has one of the most difficult jobs in the city of Portland. And if his job was mishandled, it would create real problems for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And he handles it effectively and professionally, and he understands keenly the balance in terms of delivering service both to people who are vulnerable and on the streets, as well as the public at large. And he has contact with all of the above. And I've watched him really do a masterful job. And this is just one more example of going the full 10 yards, if I have my sports ball analogy correct, and I believe I do here, to actually do something beyond what the law requires at a minimum. And I know, Pauline, you also, and the folks at OMF, you guys worked really, really hard together to find this location. And a lot of time and energy went into it, and I thank you both. This is great work. I vote aye.
Thank you.
The ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Next item, item 420.
Verify income of subsequent homeowners receiving a property tax exemption under the Home Buyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program.
Colleagues, the Portland Housing Bureau administers the city's tax exemption programs. You know that. The Home Buyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program, known as the HOLTE program, provides 10-year property tax exemptions for low to moderate income home buyers, making homeownership more obtainable for families in Portland. Home builders apply for tax exemptions prior to starting construction on new homes. Those approved homes must sell below an annual sales price cap to income-eligible home buyers who will live in the homes. Currently, exemptions continue for 10 years, as long as homeowners continue to own or occupy the homes receiving the exemptions and don't use the properties as rentals. This ordinance enables the Housing Bureau to ensure that any future home buyers meet the income requirements at the time they buy a home with a tax exemption in order to continue the exemption for the remaining years. By doing this, we're ensuring that the city and other taxing jurisdictions do not continue to forego the collection of taxes from higher income households. Good morning, Director Callahan.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Shannon Callahan from the Portland Housing Bureau. The mayor has succinctly noted what this ordinance would do. It changes language to make sure that subsequent purchasers of homes that we have granted a tax exemption still meet the income requirements that you as a city council set on an annual basis, which is presently set at $74,700 a year, which is the median family income for a family of four, making 100% of the area median income. That's essentially what the ordinance does. We would be enacting that on a going forward basis. The next time you would hear from us on HOLTE was to set another price cap for the next following year, which we intend to do in December. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
What's the current price cap?
The current price cap is $375,000.
Shannon, my recollection is we've made two changes in this program over the last 10 years. One is that it used to be administered by PDC, and now it's the Housing Bureau. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the second is that it used to be limited to certain areas, and with working with the state legislature, it was expanded to include high opportunity areas as well. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Very good. Any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Please call the roll.
It's a
I'm
second.
sorry, this is a non-emergency first reading of an ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you. Thanks, Shannon. Next item, 421.
Authorize a contract with Parametrics, Inc. for professional engineering services for the Lombard Pump Station Upgrade, project number E10920, in the amount of $959,746.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. The Bureau of Environmental Services Lombard Pump Station conveys wastewater to the Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant, serving North Portland and protecting public health and the environment. The project will provide mechanical, electrical, standby power, and seismic upgrades to the pump station. I'd like to invite Aaron Lawler, engineer, and Paul Sudo, principal engineer from BES, to give a brief presentation, and the PowerPoint is in your packet. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Paul Sudo, Principal Engineer with BES. The project we're presenting before you today is the Lombard Pump Station, and it's part of BES's ongoing program to reinvest in the 99 pump stations that the Bureau operates and maintains for the community. The reinvestment is critical to ensure reliable and cost-effective service to our ratepayers. On average, this program completes about 2 to 3 pump stations per year, and we have about 10 pump stations or so currently in process, anywhere from just initiating through construction. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron Lawler, the project manager, and he'll provide more details on this specific project.
Good morning. I'm Aaron Lawler, engineer with BES Wastewater Treatment and Pump Station Engineering. So I'd like to walk you guys through our PowerPoint today. The presentation is for the approval of an ordinance to enter into a contract with Parametrics, Inc. for design services during this project. So Lombard Pump Station, this slide here is to provide context on the location of the pump station. The address is 12902 North Lombard Street. I've pointed out Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant in the lower right-hand corner here on this slide, just to help orient you. You can also see on this slide the Willamette River on the left there, Columbia River up in the top right, and the pump station is located adjacent to the Columbia Slough and near Port of Portland Terminal 4. So here's some aerial photos of that location we were just looking at. These photos depict two very important aspects of the location of the pump station. First, you can see the proximity of the pump station to the slough. It's right there on the banks. And then second, you can also see this well-timed photograph, aerial photo of a train passing across the access route to the pump station. So it's a little bit off the beaten path there. But this train can restrict access for our operators and maintenance personnel to reach the pump station should they need to. The Lombard Pump Station is a City of Portland owned and operated pump station that was constructed in 1983. The aging facility requires upgrades and improvements. It's a caisson style wet well, dry well pump station that is critical to the overall collection system. It receives flows from 3 other pump stations and is the final pump station prior to sending those flows to the Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant. The capacity of this pump station is approximately 9 million gallons per day, which is equivalent to about 6,500 gallons per minute. It's a fairly well-sized pump station throughout our system. It's definitely not the largest, but is one of the main ones. The pump station then discharges to a 30-inch force main, which sends all the flows to Columbia Boulevard for treatment via the St. John's interceptor. On this slide here, we've got a picture of the existing 2 pump motors in the dry well of the caisson right there. The Lombard pumps, the project will address a number of issues at Lombard, most of which can be associated with the aging pump station that has exceeded the standard design life. Since it was initially constructed, code requirements and design standards have also changed, and the project will bring the site into compliance with these changes, including electrical, mechanical, structural improvements, as well as implementing best practices for pump station design. Key components of this project include providing standby power to the pump station, as this is currently not available on site, and if there is a utility outage, the pump station will shut down. This is less than ideal. As I mentioned, 3 other pump stations send their flows to this pump station, so it creates a real challenge, and the power outage could cause issues throughout the system. Here's a up close of some of the wearing facility equipment. These are some gate valves to the wet well. In addition to upgrading all mechanical and electrical equipment to increase reliability and operability, the project will also provide structural improvements to the pump station to increase seismic resiliency. These improvements to the pump station will help benefit maintenance and operations staff for the City of Portland and the environment. The project also includes condition assessment of a 30-inch force main, which is 4,800 feet long, so almost a mile. This force main recently required an emergency repair, and this project will investigate and address any additional force main condition issues that are discovered during the assessment. So we're here today to request an ordinance to approve a contract with Parametrics, Inc. in the amount of $959,746 for engineering services. This contract amount for engineering services and following completion of, this contract is for engineering services, and following completion of design, we will return to council to request approval to advertise the project and award construction contracts. The overall project budget, as you can see here, is $5,245,000, which includes the PTE contract that we're here today for, the estimated construction cost, which is currently at $3 million, and then all internal costs as well for managing the project over the next few years. The current proposed schedule has the construction beginning in late 2019, and we'll have the project completed near the summer of 2022. In preparation of this project and this ordinance, a request for proposals was issued to the engineering for engineering services. 2 proposals were received, and a selection committee reviewed and scored these proposals. In accordance with City Code 5.68, Parametrics was selected. After negotiating a scope and fee, a contract amount of $959,746 was agreed upon. Of this amount, $150,460 are optional tasks, and these will not be completed without the direction and approval from the owner's representative. I would like to point out that Parametrics did an excellent job of identifying opportunities to utilize DMW ESB sub-consultants.
Explain that.
Yes, disadvantaged, minority-owned, women-owned, or emerging small businesses. And so of the requested contract amount, $409,786 are allocated for DMW ESB participation. That's 42.7% of the contract. So our recommendation here today is to authorize the execution of the PTE agreement with Parametrics with a contract not to exceed limit of $959,746. And that concludes our presentation.
Very good. Colleagues, questions before we go to public testimony? Very thorough. Thank you. Public testimony, Carla?
No one signed up.
Very good. So this is the first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Good work, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul and Aaron. Good job.
Second to last item, and then we have some items that were pulled off the consent agenda. Item 422, which is a second reading, and before I forget to say so, I was out of town for the first reading and testimony. I have reviewed the record. Carla, please call the roll unless there's any other questions on 422 after you read it.
Sorry, 422.
Yes, please.
Reauthorize Environmental Services Tree Bait Program to incent residential yard tree planting to contribute to Portland's stormwater management, clean river, and community livability goals.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
This is a good program. The incentive is modest, but the benefits to the city and to our ratepayers is that trees help us manage stormwater runoff, and in the long term means that we'll spend less money on new pipes to deal with and have fewer runoffs into our rivers. So it's a good program. It's well scaled, and I'm pleased to support it. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for explaining the program last week. For the just previous agenda item also, it's very clear what the Bureau is doing and why, and I appreciate the good work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Please call item 423.
Vacate a portion of Southeast Claiborne Street, east of Southeast 122nd Avenue, subject to certain conditions and reservations.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. Before us today is a street vacation that will greatly benefit the residents of Portland, as it is a key piece of the Leach Botanical Gardens Phase 1 of their 25-year master plan. a plan I know that both Commissioner Fish and Commissioner Fritz have been integral in moving forward. Right-of-way agent Lance Lindahl from the Portland Bureau of Transportation is here to quickly walk us through the details of the vacation and answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Commissioner Saltzman. Again, Lance Lindahl, PBOT right-of-way acquisition. As the Commissioner just mentioned, the proposal today is to vacate a portion of Southeast Claiborne Street east of 122nd Avenue. This vacation was initiated at the request of Portland Parks and Recreation. They're the current owner of the property, is located to the north, south, and east of the vacation area. A portion of Claiborne Street to the immediate east of 122nd Avenue will be retained so that the residential property located at 6518 Southeast 122nd will retain their public right-of-way access that they have now. The portion of the street to be vacated is currently an unpaved gravel road that only provides access into the Leach Botanical Gardens parking lot. Here are a couple pictures of the site. The first one showing right at 122nd. This is the area that's going to remain public right-of-way. Second picture shows the area to be vacated and the current overflow parking lot for Leach Botanical Garden. As Commissioner Saltzman mentioned, this is part of the 25-year master plan for the Leach Botanical Garden, and Parks plans to construct a paved private driveway, landscaping, a gift shop, and administrative offices within the area to be vacated. A new network of sidewalks and pedestrian paths will be built nearby as development progresses on the garden. And this slide shows an overhead view of the planned improvements for the Leach Botanical Garden. In the vacation areas in the middle there, outlined in red. As a condition of approval, a lot consolidation is being required by the Bureau of Development Services, and this will prevent the parks parcels from becoming landlocked from public right-of-way. Work has begun on this condition and will be completed prior to the recording of the street vacation ordinance. Also, the Water Bureau is requiring construction of a new water main, and Portland Parks has agreed to this condition. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here to be of assistance. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
colleagues. Makes perfect sense. Is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, we had two items pulled from the consent agenda. I'd like to read them together. That is item 412 and item 415.
412, pay property damage claim of Larry Anderson in the sum of $9,829 involving the Portland Police Bureau, and 415, pay property damage and injury claims of Julie and Robert Wells in the sum of $45,000 involving the Portland Police Bureau.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Bond. I'm here with from Risk Management, and with me today is Assistant Chief Chris Davis, and also from the City Attorney's Office, Scott Modi. If you have any questions for them afterwards, they're here to answer those. These two emergency ordinances are for the same incident. It was kind of a long, plain-out incident that happened on May 28th, 2017, over in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. Someone called police saying there was a gentleman with a handgun in their neighborhood, and so officers responded to the neighborhood. The first officer there did engage this gentleman with the handgun in front of the Wells's home. And the Wells's home, it actually sits upon a berm that's a grassy berm that's several feet above the sidewalk and the street. When the officer got there, he did have his bureau-issued shotgun. Is it called shotgun? Okay. And he was giving commands to this gentleman to please drop his weapon. He refused. The officer felt that that berm would take any impact from the shotgun. So as he was firing, he thought they were hitting the berm, but actually they were going a little bit high, and they were actually impacting the Wells's home. So it entered the front and it went inside of their home, the buckshot and the impacts. The Wells's initially sent me an estimate, or sent Risk Management an estimate for repairs to their home for $78,000. Risk Management hired a independent appraiser who came back with a damage assessment of $20,000. And we kind of went back and forth, got some different numbers. And in the end, the Wells met with the mayor's office and they agreed to settle their property damage claim and any injury claim for $45,000. This ordinance would allow Risk Management to go ahead and pay that $45,000 to the Wellses to settle their claim or claims. The second part of this ordinance is for Larry Anderson. When the officer engaged the gentleman in front of the Wells' home, the shots didn't hit the gentleman. The subject disappeared into the neighborhood. He later reemerged in front of the Mr. Anderson's home. Mr. Anderson had just moved his boat and trailer from his driveway into the street at the curb the day before this happened. The subject was hiding behind the boat and trailer on the sidewalk. The officers were in the street behind a police car for shield. The officers were again giving commands to the subject to please drop his weapon. He refused. At one point, it appeared that he was pointing his weapon at the officers, and so they began to discharge their firearms. Those impacts actually hit the boat and the trailer and damaged Mr. Anderson's boat trailer. We sent out an independent appraiser. His boat was deemed a total loss, and we came back with the value of $9,829 for the amount of the boat trailer. Mr. Anderson has agreed to that amount, and so the approval of this ordinance would allow us to pay that to him. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So I understand this is a property damage claim, but I assume it also leads to a reevaluation of tactics and potentially training. For example, backstop training. Is that correct, A.C. Davis?
In general, yes. I mean, there are, without getting into corrective action in specific cases, there are individual training issues and there are bureau training and equipment issues, and we've looked at both as a result of this case.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
Was the suspect eventually apprehended?
He was several hours later in a different neighborhood, but he was eventually, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Public testimony?
Dan Handelman pulled this.
Come on up, sir. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning again. I'm Dan Handelman with Portland Cop Watch once again, and we've had this item pulled because it's about the shooting or the shooting with no hits of Michael Grubby last May. I had to dig through the paperwork to figure that out because there's no mention of his name anywhere or the police officers using bullets mentioned anywhere in the paperwork that was filed. I noticed they were both incidents that happened on the same day as the shooting, and that's how I figured it out. I think that in a city where we're trying to be transparent and open about our police accountability issues, I think it would be better to put these things on the public agenda. I understand this is not directly about the use of force, but this is the most I've heard about this incident since it happened almost a year ago. I'm glad that we had a presentation from members of the city staff to tell us what's going on a little bit. So the Portland police shot up this neighborhood with multiple rounds, including those that hit the home of the Wells family. And while the family told the Oregonian they weren't upset with the police, that would have quickly changed if one of their loved ones had been hit by one of those bullets. This is the neighborhood, after all, where 12-year-old Nathan Thomas was shot accidentally by police as he was being held hostage by an intruder inside his home. Sure, it was 26 years ago, but the city, which promotes community policing and trauma-informed care, should realize the implications of a police shooting in that area. Instead, as we understand it, neighbors have been asking for an explanation of what happened and the results of the PPB's Police Review Board hearing, and the police have so far refused to meet with the neighbors to explain what happened. Do the Wells and Anderson families deserve compensation for what the police did to their homes and property? Yes, but that doesn't mean the city should avoid the discussion about officer-involved shooting when the investigations are done and they can't hide behind this new veil of not wanting to taint the grand jury. And just while I have a few seconds left, we look at the city council agenda every week to see if there's any lawsuits being resolved. And I think in the last several years, a lot of cases have been being resolved outside of the city council purview. And I realize that you don't have to hear anything when it's under $5,000, but I would like to get some kind of accounting through either the Bureau or through the Risk Management Department of how many times people have sued the city over use of force and other misconduct and how much money has been being paid out, because that used to be regularly available and we haven't had those discussions here.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
So, Mayor, what's the response of, are the investigations all done, and why could the neighborhood not know about that?
AC Davis, could I call you back to the rostrum, please? I think you heard the commissioner's question, or do you need her to repeat it?
Sure, and the investigation is done, I believe, up to the Police Review Board. I would have to go back and check and make sure that the final piece of that is done where the chief has reached the final determination of in or out of policy. But I can check into that and get back to you on what stage that's at.
Well, I think if I was in that community, and of course I am a community member of Portland, I would want to know more about the answer to the mayor's question about what training, both individually and throughout the Bureau, has been done in response, and have there been any protocol changes in response to this incident. I agree that we should be paying the claim, and I'm always, whenever we pay a claim, I want to know what have we done to make sure, to try to minimize the chance of this happening again. So is there a way that the Bureau is allowed to meet with the neighborhood to talk about those issues, about the training issues?
I would have to consult with the city attorney's office because the tension here in this case is between any issue that we've addressed with a specific employee versus the larger picture. I can tell you that as a result of this incident, as a Bureau, we have looked at the sighting system that is on these shotguns to make sure that's the best tool, or if maybe there's something better out there, and the training division is in the process of looking at that right now.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, because obviously we don't identify individual officers in their, what if there is any discipline. That comes in a kind of a summary report to avoid embarrassment to the officer,
right.
I believe is the wording in the police contract. And the part that we could share is about the training, the follow-up, those kinds of things.
Sure. And like I said, I mean, I can tell you definitively that we've looked at the sighting system in this case, because, you know, at least in terms of organizational issues that we've identified as a result of this incident, we always look at training and organizational issues whenever we have one of these events, because ideally we'd like to avoid having them. And, you know, we'd like to have better outcomes. But that is a specific issue in this case that we've looked at in the training division to make sure that we can prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future.
Yeah, well, with the passage of this ordinance, the families being, both the homeowners, the property owners are being made whole, it seemed like a sense of closure, and as Mr. Handelman pointed out, particularly in a neighborhood that undoubtedly still remembers the Nathan Thomas incident, it would be a good kind of closure to the whole thing. So I would just encourage you to maybe have a community policing officer attend their neighborhood meeting or something like that.
Well, we can certainly look into that.
Thank you.
Very good. And colleagues, I just want you to know also, I have met with both of the families, and my staff has met with both of the families, in some cases multiple times. And I think all of us agreed that we wanted to move on from this. And in part, that's reflected in the settlement agreement that we have here today. Very good. Please call the roll on 412.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
And just to be clear, this is the property damage claim of Larry Anderson. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Please call 415.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted, and we are adjourned until 2 p.m.